Okay, so I'm joined by Hugo Silvani. Is that how I pronounce your name?
It is, yeah, well done.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic. From the band Pale Waves. So, firstly, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been listening to the new album and it's absolutely fantastic.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. It means a lot. Thank you for having me as well.
Oh no, you're very welcome. Now, the new album, Smitten, it's actually out on the 27th of this month, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Now,
I
I
hope so anyway.
understand. Sorry?
I said I hope so. Yeah,
Now,
yeah. So,
yeah. Now, I understand it was over about 2 years written or being written over 2 years between the UK and the US.
yeah.
Where would you say provided the most inspiration out of the two locations for you?
Oh, it's a difficult one. I think it would change from person to person, but I think actually, you know what? I'm definitely going to say the UK. I'm going in. It's got a British sound to the album, and I think all the bands that we were influenced by, you know, from England, like pretty much all of them, especially for me anyway. Like when we started, like me and Heather were doing a lot of back and forth between LA and London, as in like I was in London, she was in LA, and she'd send me an idea and then I'd do something in Logic, send it back, and then she'd send it. It was very much like a lot of back and forth, but a lot of the inspiration definitely comes from the UK. And I think you can hear that more so on this album than maybe any of the others.
So, Smitten, to me, it deviates, and I think it's sort of been highlighted that it deviates somewhat from your previous record, which was a bit more pop punk, and this one's a bit more alternative pop in style. Now,
Yeah.
was this intentional, or was this just sort of a natural evolution for you as a band?
I think it's both, isn't it? Almost, because there's always a somewhat conscious decision. I think, especially I think when you're 4 albums in, you do tend to like think about everything even more and more. Because when you first start, I think there's a naivety there, and you just almost do music. Yeah, there's a lot of thought that goes into it, but like you almost do the only thing you know, don't you, when you first start? And then as you grow and progress, you look to other inspirations, whether that's in music or film or whatever, and things change and adapt. So I think it was definitely a conscious decision of something we were like, okay, we really want to write music that fits to the story that Heather's trying to tell. And I think it felt only right to do something that felt totally real and organic from us, like, and showcase, I guess, what the band's kind of all about. Like, we've always had heavy influences, especially in the first 2 albums, from bands like The Cure and, all the music we listened to when we first started the band, like, and then some, I guess. Like, we wanted to dive deeper into Pale Waves, but also showcasing the things that we love and highlighting in the best way possible the story that Heather's trying to tell. So I think there's like, yeah, there's a bit of natural evolution there in a way, because it was like, what do we know? And going back to like what we did when we first started the band, but also without just being like, oh, let's just copy the first album, or like we wanted it to feel fresh, and we wanted it to be an amalgamation of the things that we all love, and push ourselves and experiment within it as well, because we did have the time as well to do that.
So, you mentioned obviously that there was a lot of inspiration and personal story from all of this. Was there anything sort of more personal that yourself was able to bring to this record at all?
I think for me, yeah, definitely, because it's the first record of ours that I've been properly involved in on a songwriting slash production side. Because when I first joined the band, I joined as a guitarist, and Heather and Kira started the band, and the identity was almost like it was theirs. They created it, and I think you you don't want to step on people's toes. And I was very happy being a guitarist, and I enjoyed that role, and that's what I joined as, and it worked, and that's how we operated at the start. And I think it's good to be clear about those things as well, because like it being in a band is hard. Like you've got to navigate all these things, and so for me, this album was the first album that I've actually been able to like really get involved in on a songwriting slash production side, which means a lot to me as well. Like it not only was an amazing opportunity, but also like a great experience. And that came about very organically, which felt good, because I wouldn't have wanted to force. I think when you're in a band, there's so many moving parts, and you have to be careful, and you have to make sure that you're not upsetting anyone or stepping on anyone's toes or getting in the way or whatever. Like, it's a multifaceted like thing, and there's lots of moving cogs and different things going on. But yeah, it came about in a very organic way. So being able to sort of bring even just a little bit of what I'm into and the music that I love, which I think there is a massive crossover, but there's also things that I love that Heather might have not heard and vice versa. So it was also a really great like process for me, because I learned loads about like stuff that Heather's way of writing and things that she loves that I hadn't heard. And yeah, it was a really enjoyable experience for me as well, and like quite eye-opening, but also just a great opportunity as well.
Oh, so I could probably safely say that some of the changes from the previous record can be attributed to some of your input, which is really amazing.
I would
Um,
hope so. I mean, it definitely felt like it. You never want to be like, it was, I came in and said, let's do this and that, the other. It was more just me and Heather were sort of, we just did a track together just for fun. And then we just, like, over the course of however many months, years, we just like kept doing it, and we discussed and talked about our influences and had really long in-depth chats about that and how we wanted the album to sound. And that changed 20 times, but it was great to be able to have an input on something, and yeah, like showcase a little bit of what my influences are and stuff that I like to do. And yeah, it was great. It was a really amazing experience, like recording this and making this album.
cool. Now, how do you feel the releases from Smitten have been received by your fans so far? I believe was it 3 or 4 singles that have been out now?
Yeah, I think it's 4 now, just. Yeah, I think one came out last week maybe, or a couple of weeks ago. I can never remember. They all merged into one. I think it's been really positive. Like when when we released the first single, we were actually in America at the time, which was strange because we're a British band, and like it would have been great to be, in England and maybe have done something over here. But yeah, it's great, and it never sort of ceases to amaze me that people like still connect with the music and still have an interest in like following the band and stuff. I think because the last album sounded so differently, I think people didn't know what to expect. Like, I don't think anyone had anything to necessarily really go off. So it's exciting seeing people sort of be surprised by how the new album sounds, but also fall in love with it as well. And hopefully the rest of the album as well.
Cool. Well, I mean, I'll say I was listening to it earlier today while I was working, and it sort of, I don't know, it was I found it very soothing, which was, I'll be honest, quite unexpected, but I really enjoyed it.
Oh,
Um,
amazing.
have you got a personal favorite out of all the tracks that are there that, you're particularly proud of or you feel stands out in a way sort of specific to yourself?
There's a track called Last Train Home, which I really love. And like, we spent ages on that track, and that track kind of came to life just through Heather sent me a voice recording of like the idea of the song, and we just did so much back and forth and really dug in on the production of that one. And then when Heather came to England, Heather added the riff that's in the intro of that one, and it really came to life. And then we added more, and then when we were in the studio, we got strings on it, and it's the first time we've ever been able to do that, have someone come in. And I think from a voice note to what it is now, that is like really exciting to me, and like I'm proud of like hearing how we built basically a small voice note on Apple phone app to become what it is now, and the journey it took, but like also being able to see the potential in it from early on and like believe in it as we did, and then yeah, take it to studio as well and get like another dimension to it. I think that's something that like I'm really proud of, is the progression of that song and the sort of growth and the life of it.
I mean, it does sound, I'm fascinated by how a song evolves from its first conception to, the final product. So just hearing it started off as a little voice note sent over to you, it feels a bit bizarre almost, but really cool at the same time.
It isn't it? It's strange, and I think there's always something really organic in that as well, though. Like, and I think this that we wanted to retain that, and I think you can hear it in the track, hopefully. But always having an eye on the original thing is always, I think it can help you in a way. It can guide you slightly when you might start getting a little bit crazy on certain things or something. Being
Yeah.
like, no, actually, let's go back. Like, there's something in that we need to harness and showcase.
I'm very conscious of time because I think I've only got 15 minutes with you. So, very quickly, you've recently been on tour with Pvris in the US. Were there any
Yeah.
standout moments of that tour for you?
Let me have a think. It was so long. I'm trying to think of all the dates that we did.
I looked at the
Um,
tour dates, it was massive.
oh my God, you know what? I'm gonna have a quick little glance over the ones. I really enjoyed New York, and the show was great, but also like the time spent there. I find it a very like it's quite an invigorating but also tiring place, isn't it? But we were quite lucky to spend 3 days there, and it was during the Euros as well. So me and me and the band were like watching, like following the Euros, and I think we were at one point we were watching Germany in a German bar in New York. It was crazy. Yeah, I like sometimes tours like the experiences around the gigs as well. But I think one of the special moments was it was in Nashville, and there was a couple of fans who came down to the show who were a big fan of ours, and we went to get food at a pub just before the show, and they were there, and they were absolutely like just over the moon to see us. And that's the thing that's really important to us, is like meeting people whose the music's had an impact on. And even when we're supporting, like we're only playing for half an hour and there's still people coming down, they're like, oh, we just came to see you, and that meant a lot to us.
Cool. So that sort of like that intrigues me a little bit. What was it?
Yeah.
What was it like when a fan first came up to you? Your first sort of experience with someone recognizing you, recognizing your music, and you sort of, I suppose, that weird realization that you've evolved in your music, that you're actually quite well known, especially in a different country. What was that experience like for you?
It's I think it's one of like at first like almost surprised, because it's like, well, you can't believe that someone would actually want to, you know, get a picture with you or have your autograph. It's crazy, isn't it, to think? But also, yeah, one of like massive gratitude as well, because y- to have that level of to have that impact on someone, to actually want to go to the level of wanting to have a picture of you or have a chat with you, even just about their life and your music and how it's affected them. Like it is really like it's important to have those conversations, and it's also, yeah, just it's a great experience. Like we met thousands of fans across the world, and I think the first time I back to like what you said, like the first time of when that happened, I think we played a show at the Deaf Institute. It was our first like ever headline show as a band in Manchester, and it was the lineup that it is now. We played the show, and it was incredible, and it was like one of my early gigs as well. I'd only played like one gig before it or something, so we'd supported someone, so this was our first like own show, and I didn't really know what to expect. And then we came off stage, went backstage, whatever, and then it was about 150 cap, and there was 150 kids out there, and Heather and Kira were like, oh, I guess we should go to the merch desk. And then all of a sudden it was loads of people like, oh my God, like I've got your t-shirt, can you sign it, can you get a photo with us? And I remember being like, wow, this is crazy. A lot of them are like the same age as me, and they want to get a photo of me because I've played guitar on a stage. And I found it really like it was almost funny, because I just couldn't believe it. And then, the next biggest moment I think was when we supported the 1975 in America, and it was really early days for us, and they were amazing, and they took us on tour, and they were playing massive venues. And one of the things we did on that tour was like, let's go out and meet people every night, because that's how you connect with people. That's how you make fans of your music as well, is by speaking with people and meeting them. And that was on a whole nother level, because I remember the first day we got there, we played a gig to about 10,000 people or something stupid. And we were like, should we go out to the lobby of the arena bit and try and meet some people? And all of a sudden there's a queue of 200 people. And I remember thinking, oh my God, like what, how did 200 people want to get a photo with us and meet us and talk to us? And we stayed there for hours, and we did it every single night of tour. And it that I think they're the things that you remember as well. Like I can't actually remember that gig really, but I remember the bit after it.
That's really cool. So, what one final question, if we've got enough time. So,
Of course, yeah.
last one. What's the one piece of advice you'd give to an artist trying to succeed in the music business?
It's a tough question, isn't it? Because you're
It
always at
is.
risk of giving the very generic, like, just make sure you do every opportunity you can do or something. But I think honestly, like, is I think surround yourself with people that are going to be as excited about the thing that you're creating as you are. whether you're a band or a solo artist, you know, there's always people that can help you, and there's always people that can better you. And I know there's people out there who don't even need help; they're incredible. But I think collaboration is something really important, and having people around you that are gonna encourage you to do the best you can do, and also not like getting caught up in any trends. I think it's a dangerous, again, it's easy to say and it's very hard to implicate, but it's so hard to try and just figure out what you want to sound like, because we're constantly bombarded with different new viral things and bands that are blowing up, and you go, well, maybe I could do a song like that, maybe we could do it. But ultimately what people want to hear is your interpretation and your creative vision, and if you can showcase that in a way that feels really true to you, then I think that's the way you'll be happy with if you get success. And if, well, success again is in inverted commas, but like, at least then I think you've been true to yourself. And again, it's very cliche, but there's definitely a takeaway there, and there's something to be proud of, because I always think, like, you know, you could try and write a song like so and so or whatever, but even if that song blew up, I always think, would you be happy though? Like, like, would you be proud, and would you be able to say that you've done something true to yourself? And I don't know if you would, if you'd just done something to like emulate someone else or try and be something you're not. So yeah, I think that would be my very long-winded, maybe convoluted answer to the question.
To be fair, I think you articulated that particularly well, because you are right. It could be a very generic answer, and you expanded on that, and I loved it. So
Thank you.
I want to thank you, Hugo, so much for chatting to us today. Good luck with the upcoming UK tour. I hope to see you in London when you come there.
Oh yeah,
Best
amazing.
best of luck with the album release. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Very different from previously, and I think fans are going to absolutely love it as well. So thank you so much, Hugo.
Oh, thanks, Damian. Thank you for the time as well. Really
No,
appreciate it.
thank you. Take care. Bye.
Yeah, you too. See you later, mate. Bye.